Okay, so sorry, I just had soccer practice and then I had to eat. All right, so I know we did number 2. I'll do number 1. So it's always, so I'll just do it here. So it's a cylinder, right? And right now I know that the volume, so right over here, the volume is 30, the radius is 1, and we want the height. And the height is what we have to solve for. So volume equals pi r squared times h, right? Let's substitute. So volume, instead of v up to 30, pi stays there. R is 1, so it's 1 squared, and h is what we need to solve for. So somehow we have to make that look like this. Let me just rewrite this again. 30 equals pi. Pi times 1 squared is 1, right? So, and 1 times pi is just pi. So all that becomes just this. Okay. Now we're going to divide both sides by pi because I want the h isolated. Divide this by pi. Pi and pi goes away, becomes 1. And then I have h all by itself. And then 30 divided by pi. We can take the calculator. And it gives me that the height is 9.55 approx, right? Approximately. Right, because we're rounding it. So that's number 1. 2 we did in class. 3. Find the height of a cylinder. So again, another height problem. So here's a cylinder, and the height is. So let me start with my. The volume is number 3 is 720 pi. The radius is 6, and the height is the unknown. So again, volume equals pi r squared 8 times h. Volume gonna be substitute that with 720 pi. Equals pi, the radius is 6, so it's 6 to the second power times h. So we're solving for h again. We want the height, right? So this is what's missing. So let me rewrite 720 pi, and instead of pi times 6 squared times h, I'm going to write 36 pi, right? Because 6 squared is 36, and 36 times pi is 36 pi h. What do we divide both sides by? Well, we're going to divide both sides by 36 pi because I want to get rid of this 36 pi and I want to have h all by itself. So on the other side, divide by 36 pi. 36 divided by 36 is 1. Pi divided by pi is 1. So all that goes away. On the other side, you can enter that in your calculator. So 720 pi over 36 pi. And we're going to get a nice pretty number. The height is 20. I think I'm going to have to do 4. Height again. Right. I want to do something with radius. Okay, let's do 4 first. Okay, another height problem. Here's a cylinder. The volume is 1,215 pi. The radius is 9, and we're missing the height. Okay. So let's get to this. Volume equals pi r squared times the height. We're going to replace the volume with 1,215 pi. Times equals pi, and r is 9, so the radius is 9, so it's going to be 9 squared. I could have just written 81 right off the bat, but I'll write another line. So pi times 9 squared times h, let's just rewrite that as 81 pi, because 9 times 9 is 81, 81 pi h. Remember, we want the height, so our equation is going to look like this. So I need to get rid of the 81 pi, so divide by 81 pi, and I'm going to divide by 81 pi on the other side. So pi divided by pi is 1, 81 divided by 81 is 1, and 1 times h is h. So I have h all by itself. On the other side, I'm going to divide 1,215 pi divided by 81 pi. And for the record, you can just get rid of the pi's, right? So you're literally just dividing 1,215 divided by 81, and we get that the height is 15. Okay. So those are cylinder with height problems. So let's do a few cylinder with the radius. So let's go for 5. Again, so it's a cylinder, but this time around, I need the radius. So volume equals 950. The height is 10, but the radius here, the radius is my unknown. Right, so that's 10. 950 is the amount of inch cubes that fit inside, and we want the radius. So the radius is missing on this circle. So volume equals pi r squared h. Let's replace what we know. We know the v is 950. Pi, radius is I don't know, so r squared is going to be my what I'm going to solve for now, and h is 10, so times 10. So our equation at the end of the day has to look like this. R equals something. So let's start getting rid of a few things. So we need to get rid of the pi and the 10. So let's divide both sides by 10 pi and 10 pi over here. Let's get rid of the 10 goes away, the pi's out go away. I'm left with r squared. On the other side, 950. 950 divided by 10 pi. It's going to give me, again, it's going to give me this ugly number. So you're going to leave that number in your calculator, right? 20.2394 ... So we're going to take the square root of that side, and right, we're going to take, let me, instead of doing it there, I can just do it on the same line. So we're going to take the square root of this. We'll take the square root of this. And I know that some of you, or most of you, don't have the yellow calculator, but if you did have, right, on your calculator, you would go square root, and then press the square root button, and then you would highlight this number over here, so you don't have to write it again. And the calculator would do all that, and it would give you that the radius would be 5.5 rounded. Okay, so it's approximately 5.5. 6. Again, another radius problem. So we have the volume is 208. The height is 4, so the volume is 208. So the number of cubes, centimeter cubes that fit inside. So the height is 4, but the radius I don't know. So again, so anytime you don't have the radius, you know you're gonna have to take the square root of both sides. So v equals pi r squared h. V is 208. Pi r squared. What's the height? The height is 4. So again, my equation at the end is going to go like r. It's going to be r equals something. So let's get rid of the pi and the 4. That has to go. So let's divide both sides by 4 pi. So pi and pi goes away. 4 divided by 4 is just 1. Pi divided by pi is just 1. And we're left with r squared. On the other side, take your calculator. 208 divide by 4 pi. It's going to give us a decimal number. 16.55211,408, etc. ... Leave it like that. Take the square root, and you're going to take the square root of that number. So you're not going to round it, okay? Because the more we, like I said, if we round here and then we round our final answer again, we're going to be further away from the actual answer. So we only want to round the end, the final answer. So if you actually take the square root of both sides, you're actually going to get that the final answer radius is 4.07 whatever centimeters. Okay. Number 7. Let me circle because I keep forgetting where we are. So again, another radius problem. So here's the radius. I don't know what it is. I know the volume is 108 pi. The height is 12. And the radius is unknown. V equals pi r squared h. Sorry, volume we do know, it's 108 pi. Equals pi, radius I don't know, and then the height is 12. Right? So again, we're looking for radius, so we're looking to isolate r, right? So let's get rid of coefficients. Let's get rid of 12 and the pi. So let's divide this side by 12 pi and this side by 12 pi. That goes away, becomes 1. So r squared equals, and then on the other side, let's divide. Right, so you don't have to worry about the pi's because pi divided by pi is 1. So you're literally just dividing 108 and 12, which gives us 9. Take square root of that, square root of 9, and then we get r equals 3. So that's a nice little problem, pretty number. Oh, geez. Another cylinder problem. I didn't want to do all these, but I guess I'm doing 8. The volume is 686. The height is 14. The radius is unknown. So V equals pi r squared h. the volume is 686. The height, the radius, I don't know, so I'm going to leave that. But the height, I'm going to replace with 14 because it's given to us. Okay, so let's isolate the variable r. Let's get rid of 14 and pi first. Divide by 14 pi, divide by 14 pi on the right sides. 14 pi on the right side goes away. On the left side, we're going to do 686 divided by 14 pi, and enter. We get r squared equals, and again, I'm going to leave this number in my calculator, 597,18442 ... And I'm going to take the square root of that. Okay, so take the square root, and it's going to give me 3.95 about. Okay. Are we doing number 9? We did number 9, so we're doing number 10. Remember doing number 9. So number 10 is a cone with a volume, and we want the radius. So we have a cone, right? And the radius they give me is 4, and the height is what's missing. So that's h, and this is 4. So the volume is 21, radius is 4, and the height is the unknown. Volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. So the volume, we're going to replace that with the v is 21 equals 1/3 pi. Radius is 4, so 4 to the second power h, right? 21 equals, now if you think about it, 4 to the second power is 16, right? 4 to the second power is 16. So I can replace, so I'm going to get 1/3 pi times 16 times h. You don't need to do all these steps, but I'm just showing it to you. Now I'm going to combine the 1/3 and the 16. So literally it says 1/3 times 16. And if you were to multiply 1/3 times 16, you actually get 16/3. So I'm just making this a little smaller. So 1/3 times pi times 16 times h, I can eventually write it like this. Much easier, right? So all that becomes 16/3 pi h. We're trying to isolate h, right? Because that's what we want. So we're going to divide both sides by 16/3 pi, and divide this side by 16/3 pi. That and that goes away. So the right side, we removed the coefficient, and we have h all by itself. So on the left side, it's 21 divided by, and then fraction here, 16/3 pi. Let's enter. And the height, it becomes rounded 1.25. Okay. Yeah, 21. What problem is this? All right, so let's do 11. 11 says find the radius of a cone. So here's the cone. So the radius is unknown. The height is 21. So the volume is 175. Radius unknown, question mark, and the height is 21. Volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So let's substitute some values here. So instead of v, I'm going to write 175 equals 1/3 pi. Radius I don't know, so we're going to leave that r squared, and h I'm going to replace with 21. Okay, so again, look at what our final line is going to look like. R equals something. So this mess over here, right? This, not mess, well, but let me change colors. This, right? I can write it a little bit better than that. So I'm going to take 1/3 and 21, and I'm going to multiply that. 1/3 times 21. If I multiply 1/3 times 21, that becomes 7. So on the right side, I'm going to write 7 pi r squared. I just multiply these two terms, 1/3 and 21, which is the same thing as 7. Now, if I ask you what do we divide both sides by, it makes it a little bit easier to see. It's divide by 7 pi and divide by 7 pi on both sides. That goes away. That goes away, and we're left with r squared, and you're going to take that, and 175 divided by 7 pi, and we get, again, this really ugly number, 7.957747747,155 ... right? So we're going to take the square root of that the right side and square root of the left side. So square root button, highlight 7.9577471155 dot dot dot, and square root of that gives me that the radius is 2.18 approx rounded. All right. 11, 12. Another cone, and this one I want the radius. Okay, so again, here's a cone. Right, the base is a circle, and the radius here is unknown. The height is 12. So volume 196 pi, height 12, radius unknown. Let's go to the equation. Volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. Let's substitute some values. Instead of v, I'm going to write 196 pi equals 1/3 times pi times r squared times h. But instead of h, I'm going to write 12. I want to clean up this mess here. I want to write it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to multiply 1/3 times 12. Well, if I multiply 1/3 times 12, then actually it's 4. So 1/3 and 12 becomes 4. And then I'll write everything else. Pi and then the r squared. Much easier to see what I need to divide by on both sides to isolate r. So this is my final answer, right? R equals something. So I'm going to divide by 4 pi here. I'm going to divide by 4 pi here. So we get r squared equals 196 divided by 4. 196 divided by 4. And we get that's 49. Right? Because the pi's also simplified to 1. So 196 divided by 4 is 49. Take the square root of this side, take the square root of this side, and the left side and square root of 49 is 7. Ta-da! A sphere. All right, so not my best drawing. So here's a sphere. I'm trying my best to draw a sphere. There's my sphere. A sphere has a volume of 113.04, and we want the radius. Right. With a sphere, there's only one variable. There's only two variables: volume or radius. You're either going to be given the radius or the volume, and you solve. So we don't have the radius. That's what we're trying to measure. So volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. Be very careful. So instead of v, now we replace that with 113.04 equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Well, remember, I want r by itself, and I want r to the first power, not r cubed. So I'm going to have to deal with that. So first of all, let's divide both sides by 4/3 pi, right? Divide the other side by 4/3 pi. That allows me to finally isolate r cubed so far. And on the other side, take that and divide 113.04 d04. 113.04 over 4/3 pi, 4/3 times pi, and then we're going to get this ugly number, 26.98631.215 dot dot dot. We're going to take the cube root of both sides. So remember, you have to put this little 3 here because it's the cube root. Otherwise, it's the square root. So cube root here on both sides. So 3 second function, this, drag that in here. And I want you to take the cube root of that. And you get 2.9994, etc., which, if you round to the nearest hundred, becomes 3. So the radius approximately is 3. It's not exactly 3, it's very close to 3. What number is this? 113. Okay, 14 we did, so we're going to go to 15. Again, another radius problem. So take advantage. I'll draw another sphere. So 15. The volume is approximately 3052.08, and we want to find the radius. Okay? So volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. volume is 3052.08 equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So again, it's repetitive, right? So again, we want r to equal something, so let's divide both sides by 4/3 pi, divide this side by 4/3 pi. We get now r cubed is the only thing left on the right side, and on the left side, let's divide this horrible thing, 3052.088 over 4/3 pi. Enter, we get 728.6304281 ... Right, now we're going to take the cube root of the right side, cube root of the left side, right? So 3 function cube root, and we get 8.998, so we're going to round this to 9 because I asked you to round to the nearest hundredth, and becomes just 9. All right, one more problem. This one says that the volume is 4.1866666666, like that. And the radius is what? What's the radius? Oh, radius is what we're trying to find. Sorry. So volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So we're going to change the volume to, good question here. 4.18, jeez. So if they round, so this is what the number actually is, right? 6666666. That's why they have the bar notation on top. And I wish they didn't do that. So now I don't know which. Why don't we? Well, I don't know what. Why don't we just use this 1.86, and I'm gonna, instead of 66 go forever and ever. Let's just leave it as that. And I don't know, some of you might have used 4.19. That's okay too. A little tricky here. Well, I'm using that. We're gonna get similar answers. So again, we're gonna divide both sides by 4/3 pi. That goes away, right? Simplifies to 1. We get r cubed equals, I wonder if give me 1 second, 4.186666666. Let me change that to, if you change that to a fraction, so if you take 4.186 and you put this in your calculator, right, and you do all the work, this changes to 4 and 14th over 75. So I'm not sure how many of you would have done that. I changed that to a, and we learned, one of the first things we learned this year was how to change a repeating decimal into a fraction. So probably that's probably the better answer, better number to have used. Not too sure how many of you would have done that, but if you didn't and you use 4.1867, that's fine too. So let's just keep it as that. So 4.1867 divided by 4/3 pi, and you're gonna get 0.9995, so which is just 1, right? We round that. Actually, let me not round. What am I talking about? So the answer is 0.99951, and then if you take the cube root of that, you get 1. Right, so if you take the cube root of this and the cube root of this, r equals 1. Right, so hopefully one of you or some of you actually changed that to an improper fraction, to fraction format, and you use 4 and 14 over 75, which I'm curious, I mean, obviously it's going to be also 1, so that works out. All right, that's it.